All right, we are recording. It is November 19th already, and this is the Gateway API meeting for this week. And specifically, this is meant to be the end of the release scoping phase for 1.3. So we've got lots to talk about there. I know Shane had said he was going to be on this call, but I haven't seen him yet. So I'll just kind of skip over his item. Just one reminder that this is a Kubernetes community meeting, and so that just means please be nice to each other. We generally prefer if you have something to say, if you don't mind using the raise hand feature, that helps keep things on track and make sure that everyone who wants to say something can. But actually, yeah, Shane's thing is very straightforward. A reminder, if you're trying to submit a CFP for KubeCon London, that closes absurdly soon. It closes on Sunday. If you have ideas and you're looking for someone to present with, I'm always happy to either help review or help connect you with someone else who may be interested in the same thing. So don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah. Okay, with that said, KubeCon. So I think there were a lot of good discussions. I saw a bunch of you there. Thank you to everyone who was able to make it. We had, I don't know, I think it was 9 different sessions when it was all said and done. There were a lot. So thank you for the many people that went to a lot of these. Some folks were great at taking notes. So if you're curious what we're talking about, you can take a look at this doc. There's a lot of notes that are captured that, try to give the overall overview. I don't know if anyone has any highlights they want to share. No pressure, but if anyone.
Did one of us catch a note for East-West authorization? I don't feel we did it. I tried
I
to
don't think so.
retroactively
Yeah.
capture notes.
So I think the main East-West authorization meeting happened on Friday afternoon when all of us were
Yeah,
basically done for the week. So I
but
definitely
I
did
tried
not
to
take notes.
I tried to retroactively take something so I can just put it in and ask if it's a fair capture for anyone who hasn't been there. So
No, that would be great. I mean, I retroactively even put it on the agenda because I know like this was kind of scheduled last minute, but it was this like Friday at 2 p.m. thing. But yeah, there's no notes to go along with it. So retroactive notes would be even better.
all right.
Cool. Yeah, so there were a lot of Gateway API talks. I want to call out a couple that I thought were particularly impressive, though I'm sure they were all great. Most of the recordings are up already. I thought there was a really good one on policy attachment by Kate, and there was a really good one on Gateway Cuddle by Gaurav and Mattia. There were many, many great talks, but those were a couple that were highlights to me, at least. So if you're looking for things to watch or catch up on, definitely recommend those at least. Also, the maintainer track session was also great. There's too many to name, but yes, many good talks. So with that, release scoping is probably what we're mostly going to focus on today, and this could be really quick, or it might not be. So first off, let's talk about what we think may or may not fit into standard channel. So first, I think this first one is relatively straightforward, as long as it can meet the criteria. That's percentage-based request mirroring. Yeah, go ahead, Arco.
Are there any implementations that you're aware of that implement this?
No, not that I'm aware of. So I mean, it's going to be a tight fit to get implementations that support it within the time frame. So, I mean, if we can't get any implementation supporting it, passing conformance tests, this just doesn't make it in.
Yeah, on my gateway is happy to. I think if you do want to move it to standard, we can try and prioritize the implementation. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And we'll definitely ping others if we can work to get others also implementing this one. But the big risk to this one is just implementation supporting it. So yeah. The other one I want to call out is Candace has volunteered to push back NTLS policy to graduate in standard. I think this one also carries some significant risk in that we really need a significant number of conformance tests. And I know Candace has been working on this, but I think she could use some help. So if we really want to make sure this one gets in, we'll probably need to help her out on the conformance test front. Then Guy has volunteered to do, I should upvote more of these, but Guy has volunteered to do policy attachment, and that has been wildly popular. So thank you, Guy.
Yeah,
I think this is something we'll all
I
be
asked
excited
my
about.
mom to vote.
Perfect. And then TLS route to standard. This one I think deserves a bit more conversation. If we can meet all the graduation criteria, I think I could be okay with it. But I do want to call out that one of the things I put further down the list is this doc that I mentioned pre-KubeCon, the problem that I view of our HTTPS config not being quite right. So basically this relates to any form of SNI matching, and TLS route is, well, one of the ways we do SNI matching. So I am cautious on TLS route until we have a good resolution to this. It's possible that we can resolve this and graduate TLS route in the same go, but I just want to add some caution there. But in my opinion, it is worth trying on all of these. I just want to have some caution with this one. And, I think all of these, will take a lot of work, and we should do what we can to help support people that have volunteered to help get these across the line. Any comments, concerns, questions? So I think this basically means we're leaving ourselves with 4-ish slots. So a reminder that we've said that for everything that goes into experimental channels, something has to come out. So this would give us in the ballpark of 4, hopefully, if if everything works out, which is a lot. But that's kind of our upper bound for what can go into experimental channel. So for experimental channel, let's open that one up real quick. And there's even more comments. Okay, so gRPC route timeouts. Wait, I thought, gRPC retries. Oh, yeah, no, good call, Christine. I missed gRPC timeouts. Yeah, this is a good one. This is a really good one to keep in mind. And the HTTP route level TL. I don't know, Christine, are you on the call?
Yeah, I am.
This one, I think we got really close to this one, and it just got pulled out of the overall timeout skep. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was really close, but
Okay.
then the time was just too short for the amount we
Okay.
had. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like we should give these kinds of things special treatment, things that just were barely removed from scope, but otherwise basically approved. Okay. And then the HTTP route level TLS redirection. Dave, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you have questions about this?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, this is my first time seeing it. So
It was in the 1.2 scoping too, but I kind of did it last minute and I just remembered about it, so that's why I added it now. So once you do redirects, you can't do it on a per route level right now, which is a bit complex because then you need to add rules to the gateway in order to do it. So
yeah.
if I'm an app operator, I then need to coordinate with my platform team in order to do route redirects or SSL redirects, but
So wait, I mean, you can do a redirect, like redirects occur in routes. What do you mean that you need to coordinate with
because
your
you need
platform
to
team?
make sure there's appropriate listeners. And then you get the ability to attach to those unsecure listeners as well. Like
But
port
that seems
80.
strange. So you're saying in a world where you can't attach to a listener on port 80 that you could kind of bypass this by setting some kind of annotation?
No, I think you like dig through the issues. There's just like a lot of config also needed, like on the
Yeah, so
gateway and in the route. So in order to accomplish redirection.
yeah, I can buy a a shortcut for TLS redirection. That I'll definitely buy the idea that our current redirect is overly complicated for the simple case. But I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know about the, if you don't, if you already have access. So I don't think it's so much an access issue as it is just an ease of use, a UX issue, maybe.
UX issues are real.
No, yeah, for sure, for sure. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Okay. Well, okay. So given that there's a couple new ones, I think we should probably let this sit for another, we'll say 12 hours or so for people to vote before we do the final cut on issues. But I'll switch over to what had been a rough approximation, a work in progress. You may remember from last time we had this very fun, very approximate spreadsheet that tried to gauge community interest in things and give things a weighted score. This is very, very approximate, but this does not include the two that were just added. But if we consider these, yeah, this is
Rob, how did you even come up with all of these things to throw on here?
no, this is the same thing we
No,
did
I
in
mean
1.2.
sorry, the columns, right? There are
Oh,
way
yeah,
more
yeah,
numbers
yeah.
on here than I would have expected.
Yeah, so this was what we came up with as maintainers in 1.2, and I just copied it over.
Uh-huh.
So there is one new column, which is real fun, and so that makes it even more exciting. So I think the key columns here are complexity budget, which is this idea that we're already near exhausting our complexity budget, so we need to be careful. There's review complexity, just in terms of how much bandwidth it's going to take from reviewers. Those are both, all, from previous. The thing that is new this time is longevity. And this is something that is basically trying to capture things that we got a really long ways on in the last. So maybe they just barely missed the cut, or we already have a gap that, made it most of the way. This is kind of like, this is already well established, some kind of criteria for that. Implementability is, well, fairly straightforward, but there are some that are more implementable, more broadly implementable than others. And so the idea is we should try to prioritize ones that more implementations can support. And the idea of table stakes was just the idea that we want to prioritize features that are blocking the adoption of Gateway API. So if somebody is saying, hey, I would use Gateway if only you would let me configure X, then that is what that category is meant to represent. And then the most heavily weighted category by far is the community interest category, which is trying to approximate the level of interest here, though I will say it was incredibly difficult to approximate the level of interest on the ready condition, because this is the first time we've ever had such a controversial item on the where we actually have downvotes. So I tried, but I will welcome any criticism, critique, suggested changes, whatever to this. But this was meant to be a work in progress starting point for how we decide what makes the cut and what does not. So if we were to go with this as it stands today, the 4 that made the cut would make the cut, would be the course, filter, retry budgets, auth, and gRPC retries, with the ready condition following just below this cut line. That is today, but there were just a couple other compelling ones that were added today. So, Guy, you've got a hand?
Yeah, thanks. I was thinking some of these indicators, I think I understand that the highest, the better, and others, it's the other way around, right? It would be nice to have some indication maybe of or what's the ideal case for each one of them. I was thinking, for example, what do we want for longevity, which is the new one?
Yeah. So this is very confusing, I would say, but the weights for each column are meant to be up here. So when they're negative weights, lower numbers are better, and when they're positive weights, higher numbers are better.
Gotcha.
And the highest weight by far is community interest, and the lowest weight is review complexity, because we don't want that to be a huge factor. It's just a factor.
Okay, so excuse me, I didn't notice that. Okay, so it's clear now. Thanks.
Candace?
Hey, Rob. I think this chart is great. I like how, how it represents a lot of different things. The only thing that I think needs to be added is possibly, whether there's someone who's willing to lead it. I'm not sure if that's included under community interest or not. But having a leader is a good measure of
Yeah.
the scope. And then secondly, I think just having some definitions for things like table stake and longevity, which I know you just explained, but like having the definitions there for later would be useful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this, this is really the second time we're trying to use something like this, and if it sticks and it makes sense, I think we should actually formalize it and write down these terms and formalize the weights for them, so that this is something that's expected and known well in advance. I completely agree on that front. The other thing that I think may get lost is that when you submit something like here, you're supposed to also be saying that you personally have time to lead the development of the feature. If anyone has submitted something and they don't have time to lead the feature, definitely please, call that out, because and maybe we should actually make that part of the questionnaire so it's very clear that, oh yeah, no, we do. Okay.
There's a question in there
Yeah.
that to the tune of could you leave this? Maybe we should change it to read like, can you lead this? If not, you shouldn't submit it.
Yeah, that's right. So I see one possibly, and the rest are yes. But we should probably have some level of certainty here of, if somebody submits something and it's uncertain, maybe that lowers the overall weighting. I'm not sure. Okay, so I think these are both compelling new things. So I wanted to call them out and maybe give them another. Oh, I am disappearing into the dark. Maybe I'll give this. What do we think is 12 hours appropriate for additional voting to come in? Given the lack of response, I'll say 12 hours it is. If I can make this work. And I'll try and get some lights back on. Okay. So, all right, 12 more hours to vote. I think I'll try and lock the discussion itself so we can't get any new proposals at least. So we limit that scope, and then we'll tweak this based on any additional votes that come rolling in. I'm imagining these top four will make the cut. I also There's a strong push among maintainers that we think listener sets is something that is crucial. It was one of the most highly upvoted last time. It may have been the highest upvoted item, and we made it a long ways, but did not quite make it through. So I think we're talking about maybe bringing this one across and not making it count as one of the ones for the experimental code. I don't want anything to fall out of this because we're trying to elevate listener sets. So we're considering just adding this as a bonus because we think it's important.
If we think it's that important, I think we should drop gRPC retries. Because what's next, right? That way lies a slippery slope, Mr. Scott.
It does. It does. There's just this, I feel like gRPC retries earned it by by the mechanisms we have, and so I'm hesitant to pull one out that has earned a slot just because we think something else is critical.
All the stuff driving the idea of limited slots and experimental has a lot behind it in terms of the value of limiting the amount of work in progress. And, we could go run down that rabbit hole all day. I'm much more okay with the idea that we could factor in previous community interests to override a choice than I am with, oh, it's cool, let's just go ahead and let one extra one in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair for me. I don't feel that.
Don't get me wrong,
strongly
I want
about this.
gRPC retries too, but I would rather, especially this early, I think I would rather, let's do the process. And if we find out over a few cycles that it doesn't work out, then we can change it. But let's at least give it a few tries before we start amending it.
Okay. So I mean that means we're kind of, I mean, what I hate about that is it means we're kind of just ignoring the system for the bottom one and just, well, we think this one is important, so we're just going to override this system for it, which is unfortunate. But I agree with what you're saying. If we start adding more experimental than we have room for, then
I think that would be worse.
Fair. Any other opinions on this one?
I'll get the votes. I'll get the votes.
We have had trouble
that?
actually pushing things to the pipeline before, so more focus would be better.
Okay.
I know there are a lot of upvotes on the community side, and I'm the one who suggested retry budgets. I also feel like there has been significant community interest in the gRPC retries and timeouts, and retries has somewhat of an interaction or dependency on timeouts, or at least it did for HTTP, in terms of defining when it should be retried.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, so there's also timeouts, and there's also these are the missing ones right now.
If we have to bump something down that we start work on but don't ship, I'd be more okay doing that with retry budgets than deferring pick one of timeouts and retries on gRPC. I'd rather do both the gRPC things and start on budgets but not commit to it for 1.3 scope.
Yep. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Okay. Arco, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, just will do the votes and weights from last time's voting come in, or is it just brand new?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to capture that with this longevity thing, but it's very imprecise. And even with that, it doesn't have near as much weight as the votes for the current cycle. So even with a high score there, it has a very, listener sets had very little interest in this cycle, at least partially due to it being a late submission. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of the limitations of our system right now is just, yeah. I do want to respect the votes that exist as closely as possible. So I do want to give another 12 hours or so for these votes to come in, and I definitely appreciate Mike's comment that if we need to cut one, bumping retry budgets down is an option, because that that definitely helps give us some flexibility here. For ones that are below the cut, is anyone on the call that really feels strongly about any of these?
I like listener sets.
Cool. Yeah, I think so. If we try and, I think there's, maintainers also like listener sets. I think there's a push to try and get this in if we can. We've put so much effort and time into it, it would be a shame to just kind of lose it at this point. So I would agree at trying to push this above the cut line. Candace, I think you've got a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I like standard mechanism to merge gateways, but I'm still not convinced about listener sets. Does it have to be listener sets?
That's fair. I think that's likely where we'll start, but it is the thing that Dave proposed is more broadly a standard mechanism to merge gateways, which we expect will be listener sets, but they are not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah, so I had upvoted that until listener sets came in. Then I withdrew my vote. Sorry.
That's fair. Mattia?
Yeah, I +1 about listener sets. Even if community interest is low, I think we kind of need it because it's some other things are kind of blocked by this one. So yeah, I think I would like to see this one move forward.
Shane?
If we're going to give listener sets the super bump, can we enumerate those things so that we can communicate that properly with the community and let them understand what exactly this unblocks?
Yeah, I think that's only fair. Yeah, I think we'll give it I guess 12 hours. So for me that means 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, or we'll say 9 p.m. Pacific time, the end of this meeting slot, to tabulate votes roughly and then take another look. But it does seem very likely that if we want this one in, it's going to need, as Shane calls it, a super bump, which I think anytime we do that, we need to be very cautious and
communicative. Yeah,
and very communicative.
Key strategic things are things, but yeah, the communication. I mean, this is everybody's project.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns?
Rob, I'm just waiting for you to, implement this spreadsheet in a GitHub bot so that we get the real-time sorting and everything, right?
I do. There's a whole lot of, imprecision. That's the word I would use here. You can question any one of these values. I encourage you to question any one of these values. If you say, oh, well, actually, this seems more table stakes than the other thing, like, sure, by all means. So
yeah, we have a almost any discussion about that rapidly lands in the bike shedding realm, though, and we can
It
spend a
sure
week
does.
doing it to basically no value. So let's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I think last time we did this live and that we filled out the spreadsheet during a meeting, which is fun. And maybe we should do that again next time. But it is bike shedding for sure.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. The other things in scope that are, not directly 1.3 well, okay. The first one I called out is this connection coalescing issue. I don't really know what the fixes look like yet. I don't know what the solution is here. I'm open to ideas. This is more of a
I
problem
think the
statement
fix is
right
to
now.
change all the web browsers in the world.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
But I do want to just call out that something needs to happen, in my opinion, in 1.3 related to this. I will take it as my responsibility to do something here. I view whatever happens related to this as a bug fix. Maybe it's changes to, I don't know. I don't know. But this is what I'm considering a bug fix personally. And I hope we can keep the scope pretty tiny. The other ones are just
Hey, Rob, I would
Yeah.
sorry, I think that's worth some more face-to-face time, probably with a smaller group.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this one a little bit, and I don't know. I kind of feel like all of our options are bad, and I'm curious which ones the community views as less bad. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it would be very good to schedule a one-off meeting sometime soon about this for the folks
Yeah,
that
I
are
agree.
interested.
Hopefully we could
I
do that at
will
a time
admit
where
that
Nick could make it as well, because I
yes.
recall he had some opinions here.
Yeah, Nick was one of the first people I talked to about this, and he does have opinions on it. I expect you will have opinions on this as well, which will be great. And anyone with
mean,
strong opinions, maybe I'll start a list here of people with strong opinions. If anyone else is interested in this, I'll try and make sure to reach out to you if you add your name to this list. I'll also try and throw something in Slack, but I just want to make sure we're involving all the people that care.
I'd like to explicitly point out here that strong opinions in this case might mean strong opinions that you want to know what's going on and how it's approached,
Yeah.
because the most interesting thing about this issue to me isn't so much that I have strong opinions about how it should be solved. It's that I have the strong opinion that the options I have come up with so far are all varying degrees of bad, and it's going to be really fascinating to see if my colleagues have come up with things that are less bad, and if not, to figure out which one we agree is the least bad, right? So
Yeah.
I have strong opinions about the process here, less than the solution. I kind of wish that wasn't the case. I would like to have an obvious solution in mind, but I don't know that there is one.
No, I have not. There's a reason this is. If I had a really clear solution in mind, I would have proposed in this doc. I have some
Yeah,
ideas and they're all awful. So let's just focus on the problem first and agree on
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, it's a nasty, nasty problem. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah. Cool. So yeah, I'll follow up with that one. Good call. Candace, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a question. Is this, I may have missed it, sorry. Is this, in your opinion, related to listener sets? Or listener
Yeah,
I
merging?
think so.
So one of the things I suggested at KubeCon, and this is, I don't know, maybe an awful suggestion, is depending on the changes proposed here, it's possible that we could test them out in listener set first, even if they need to make it up to Gateway. That would be, I don't want to tie them together too closely, but it is a possibility. Like one of the things that Nick has argued about listener set is it gives us the ability to experiment with things that we have to be far more careful about in Gateway because it's already GA. So that would be a possibility at least.
It's an interesting idea, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I should probably, when Candace initially asked the question, I said, no, not really. Let me qualify that. The problem exists no matter what we do with gateway merging, was what I meant. You don't need to have multiple gateways or multiple listeners or any of that stuff for this to be an issue. But it's interesting to think that listener sets might give us some different options for how to deal with it. So that's potentially pretty interesting.
Yep. And then I just want to call out real quick that there are other projects that are just kind of happening that are related to Gateway API, but are not currently in our release cycle. So I've mentioned this LLM routing idea. We had a great session, KubeCon, that discussed this in more detail. This is being tracked in LLM Instance Gateway, which is a project that is currently, primarily being led by folks in working group serving, but with the idea of becoming, Gateway API, being Gateway API compatible and just being a plugin for any Gateway implementation. And then the next one is this idea
plugin for
of
any gateway implementation. Did you just say?
Well, I think that's
says the guy
goal.
who is 100% certain to not be using Envoy for Ingress whenever Linkerd does Ingress.
So one of the things we talked about is we want an extension model. It will probably at least start with XProc, but I think there's a huge openness to support any kind of, ideally we can settle on a very small number of extension protocols, or other implementations can add a shim, like Guy was mentioning. They have a WASM shim that basically allows them to implement these kinds of protocols. Whatever it is, I care less, but just the idea that the North Star for this is you can take this project and plug it into your gateway, whatever that gateway is, as long as it's implementing Gateway API. So,
and to be clear, I can imagine ways that we could do that with something that doesn't have the same sort of data plane extensions that Envoy does. But there are a lot of fascinating interoperability sorts of things that show up when you are hanging external processing on the Envoy protocols like that, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I'm also not gonna lie.
I should be clear that
it offends me that this effort exists because OpenAPI got their protocol design wrong. And I find that offensive. We should be talking to OpenAPI as well. And I hope that some of the folks are.
Yeah, no, I agree. OpenAI spec. So there are many reasons this exists, even if you don't need the body-based inspection. To be clear, you still need this, whether or need is a strong word. This still offers a lot of value, whether or not you're using OpenAI. But
there are certainly things where there's room to do some cool things with maintaining the state of which models are loaded where and things like that. I get that too.
Yeah. The other things I wanted to call out here is this East-West identity-based network policy thing. That's a mouthful, but we spent some time on Friday chatting with some folks in the network policy subproject. And I think we basically agreed that, yes, this is an interesting thing and we should, discuss it further inside network policy subproject.
But no link to that so far?
No, there's no. This was Friday. So I think Lior was going to try and write up some some notes in retrospect, but this was Friday afternoon. We were all pretty dead by that point. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus, there were some gateway talks last thing on Friday. Yeah, but Flynn, I'm gonna put either today or tomorrow a link here. Like I'm gonna put it in the breaking room sessions because that's where mostly captured.
Cool.
But yeah, just I can ping you if you're interested.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
No worries.
Cool. And then, yeah, I think Arco, you may have added Envoy Gateways release cycle. So yeah, there's a lot of different release cycles going on here. Did you have a hand? Or is it?
I just wanted to say that it would be great if we can align Gateway API and we can cycles so that we are happy to sort of move our cycles a little bit around so that we can incorporate every release in, and we get about a few weeks to test that out. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, this is, so we've been making some form of baby steps towards predictable releases in the sense that, you have I think our last release, we predicted a few months, probably 2 months in advance, within a week or so. I would love to get to a point where we're on such a strong cadence that it becomes, we'll say 3 times a year, but then we turn directly into Kubernetes upstream, which I don't know we want to be. I don't know. I think that's a bigger, broader topic, but we are at least gradually moving towards more predictable releases, which I think is good. I don't know that I want to be quite as rigid as once every, quarter or once every 4 months, or I don't know, you pick a timeline, but I am very interested in feedback on this and how we can improve. If, maybe I'll raise this. If we were to move to a more kube-like structure where we release every 4 months on a T, would that be preferable to most people?
I think these are more.
That's always going to be something of an aspirational goal, right? I think that being transparent saying things like we're probably going to be around every 4 months and then a month ahead of time saying, okay, we figured out when it's going to happen, to me seems a little more valuable, especially more valuable than saying, oh, there's going to be a release next week. And that's the first anybody ever hears of it.
Yeah. Arco?
Yeah, I think more than how often, I think the more important thing is when. So if that's more predictable, the exact date or weeks, that would help implementations downstream. So yeah, plan better.
Yeah. I think usually once we're done with the release scoping phase, which is today, so hopefully next week we can have a pretty reliable idea of when the final release will be. And I can't remember exactly how much longer it takes, but I think in the ballpark of 2 months from here. So a bit more than 2 months, I think. So yeah, but we'll try and scope that out for the next meeting at least. Cool. Okay. The other thing I just want to call out for anyone who was watching KubeCon keynotes, you may have noticed that there's a new project or rebranded project currently called Cade's Gateway. That is trying to be submitted to CNCF. There's some disagreement on the name of the project. If you have opinions on the name of the project, I linked the issue on CNCF. And there's also going to be a discussion about this at the SIG Network meeting in 2 days.
What a remarkable understatement, Rob.
I try.
Yeah.
This has been a controversial name, I guess you could say, but
let's just call that particular kettle black and say that everyone except Solo seems to believe that this is a terrible, awful, no good, very bad name that must not be allowed to continue in the world. That is my personal opinion. I would encourage everybody to jump on. I will be doing that later. I did not want to do that early in this discussion for various reasons.
Yeah, no, I am personally not a fan of the name. I've made that clear in my comments, and I think that a different name will be selected. That is my guess and understanding, but we'll see. So we'll have more discussion on this, I'm sure. I just wanted, I've gotten a number of questions about this. So I just wanted to point people in the directions of, where the discussions are happening. If you want to chime in yourself.
Is this a case where we feel like more dogpiling is necessary, to be blunt, or is it
how can it hurt?
No, I mean, I would say so. So there's been some conversation among Kubernetes steering. There's a Slack channel there as well if you're interested. That is public and open, and some conversation there saying that I think the point is relatively clear at this point, and I think the latest comment from Stephen on this thread is basically just please follow up after you've had a talk with the SIG Network community. So that is Thursday. I think that's a natural follow-up. I don't know that there's much else that needs to be done between now and then. But yeah.
Something else I wanted to bring up, at least of interest to people here, in there on the K8s Gateway project I was looking through. And they mentioned that the K8s Gateway was launched in 2018 as Glue. I'm like, that's before the Gateway API started, right? Like,
Glue has nothing to do with Gateway API whatsoever. Glue Gateway was an old Envoy-based API gateway. You know what? I'm just going to stop there in terms of talking about history and other projects that may or may not have competed it, that some of us may or may not have been involved with. But Glue Gateway has been around for a little while, has absolutely nothing to do with Gateway API. And what they're basically saying is, hey, we're going to add Gateway API to Glue, which is fine. But they also decided to donate Glue to the CNCF rather than having it be just a commercial solo project. Also fine. But renaming it K8s Gateway in the process, not fine. And I don't actually know how far along they are with adding Gateway API to Glue, but yeah, the early days of Glue Gateway had nothing to do with Gateway API. Well, sorry, Lior, I'll stop ranting now.
I will mention that they did submit conformance report starting in Gateway 1.0. So Glue and the project currently known as K8s Gateway, well, whatever this project is, submitted conformance reports as Glue Gateway starting in 1.0. Gateway
and again,
1.0. Just to be
more power to them.
Yeah.
So is the action items that should anyone interested leave their comments on the issue?
No, I don't know that dogpiling is that productive right now. I think that there have been enough comments from people that based on the feedback I've heard so far, that people probably agree with. So your voice is probably, a comment that you would agree with is probably already on that issue. So I would just say, if you are curious, this is the place to look. I've had enough questions about this. I just wanted to get it out that here's where you can look if you're curious. And also, if you want to be, around when this comes to community more formally, that will be at the SIG Network meeting at 9 a.m. Pacific in 2 days. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up this cherry pick because of the breaking. So there's two things. A is for, I think I probably take an action item on myself, but mainly it's something Mike came up with, Mike Morris, with the idea to just prefix experimental fields from now on with something experimental. So if we need to change them, nothing happens like we did now. So this is A, and I would very much appreciate ideas and thoughts about it. But the second thing is once this get in, still need to run some make generate and make verify. But once this get in, should we cherry pick 1.2?
So I'm sorry, are you
So
suggesting
that context, like there's a thread on the Gateway API channel, which like because we changed a field, an experimental field, from list of strings to list of sub objects, that means that now people with the previous gateway class, in this case, that had the previous field, and now the controller is upgraded, now they cannot unmarshal it because they have a string and it cannot be unmarshaled to a list of objects.
I was going to ask if you were, I'm sorry, I meant to ask if you were proposing this to turn into a 1.2.1 or whether you're thinking this needs to be 1.3, a 1.2.1.
So I'm like, so definitely it should be 1.3, but I'm proposing to cherry pick 1.2 as well. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's 1.2.1 or like cherry pick.
I think 1.2.1. Yeah, I think that based on the conversation I heard at KubeCon, I think that sounds like a really good idea, actually.
Yeah. No, I thank you for fixing this. I think this is a no-brainer for a 1.2.1.
Yeah.
So I guess I see there's a test failing still on this one.
It's the make verify, I think. But like there's also one question I posted. John didn't reply to it. But, like because I'm not, just whoever's interested, like just having a small review, and I'm probably gonna fix the verify today. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for a quick fix. I'll try and take a look at it in the next couple of days. And I agree, we should aim for a patch version here sometime soon.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Let me know.
Right. Well, I think
I don't remember how should I tag it with the robot, like for patching. So just either put
so there's actually, I can do it right now. It's release, something like that. Should do it. And so then once this merges, you'll get an automatic PR to cherry pick back. Yeah.
Okay.
That. So anyone can do that. I just did it because I was here. But
okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. With that, I think we've hit the end of our agenda. Reminder, if you care about scoping for 1.3, sorry, go on here, finish, get your votes in the next 12 hours. I think right now we have a pretty good idea of what the top 3 or 4 will be. But definitely feel free to adjust your votes and maybe something else squeaks in instead. But with that, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week. See you.
Bye-bye.